Welcome to the Black Appalachian Coalition's podcast entitled Black Remembering, where we will bring to you the heavy and the hope across the Ohio River Valley. We want to remember who we are, where we've come from. We want to speak to the oral history of what we've done, what we've achieved. We want to speak to the ills that we have experienced while also finding solutions to those problems, those issues. We want to deal with the narrative that has kept us deeply rooted in despair. Now we want to punch through that narrative and stand up and say, we are remembering our Black past, and we are rooted, and we are here to stay. Welcome to Black Remembering. We hope that you find your place, your space, and your voice in this podcast.
So this is Tania Whitfield. I am with Black Remembering Podcast. I am their narrative organizer, and I have with me a great friend and colleague, and I'm going to allow her to introduce herself.
Hey everybody, my name is Morgan Rumpel Whiting. I use pronouns she, her. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm really excited to be here, Tanya. Thank you.
And I tell you, it's so funny because when we first met, you would have thought we'd known each other our whole lives. And
Yes.
I was just like filling out my paper to go into the event that I
Mm-hmm.
was a little late to from
Yeah.
another event, because I'd just be
You're so
everywhere.
busy.
And
Yes.
but as soon as I saw you, I'm like, that's my girl.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have to
And
whirl with
and
her.
y'all, we
We have to
we
have a
have.
podcast. Like I
Yep.
just felt that whole vibe, and I don't know. I just feel like that. I feel vibes with most people, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And even the ones I don't, I'm like, I think we could have a cool situation. But
Yeah.
everybody's different, right?
Mhm.
And every vibe is different. And I don't want to say they're bad. That's why I say different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we got to get away from making everything bad or good. Like we just have to
Exactly.
get away from that
Exactly.
lingo.
We gotta get
So,
to the
with
we
the
gotta get
first question, just tell us about like your community and how you grew up. Like, did you
yeah.
grow up in Louisville, or have you lived anywhere else besides that?
Yeah, so I love this question because when I think about community, I think about where I started and I think about kind of where I am now because, where I started really created who I surround myself with, right? So I didn't grow up in Louisville, Kentucky. I grew up in Cordon, Indiana. I was, at 2 weeks old, I was adopted. And I was adopted by two moms in southern Indiana home, and it was an all white family. So I grew up in an all white family, all white community. Like I'm a woman of color, so this really shaped a lot of my early idea of what community looked like. But I will say with some of my experiences with understanding where I belong, I think that that is a piece of when I think about community. So, like I said, I was adopted, 2 weeks old. My parents are white. And a lot of social workers would tell my parents, like, we don't want any more Black kids in Indiana. And this was back in 1990, so it wasn't that long ago, y'all. And so then, even though I was living in one community, my parents were having to pretend that I was from another community. So we would come to Louisville and set up in my brother's house and have to act like that's where we lived because I wasn't wanted in Indiana. And so for me, like even thinking back that long as a baby, I was already being shaped. My community was already being shaped for me. So I lived in the Indiana my whole life. I have a lot of experiences as a Black girl in a white community, and especially having two moms. So, we can talk about that anytime. But after I went to college, I moved down to New Orleans for a little bit, and that is really where I started to be around community that looked like me more. And so after moving to New Orleans and doing some work there, I moved back to Louisville, Kentucky. And my community now is, I would say, really diverse, which reflects my identities. So the community and the neighborhood that I'm in, and just like that kind of community, my neighborhood, really diverse. I love being around people who look different than me, also think different than me, which is sometimes challenging, especially like in today's world. But listen, like I grew up that way, right? So I love being around folks like that. But for me, I think the last thing I'll say here is I think community, as someone who's been adopted and I have a different view of what family looks like and I have a different view of what community looks like, I've really built a network around me because I felt unsafe. I felt unwanted. I felt all of those things. So I'm like, I don't want to feel that anymore. And I have a kiddo now. And so I don't want my child to ever feel those ways that way either. So I think that community is fluid, and I really love kind of the community that I built, and I love where I am now. So that was a very long way of answering your question,
No,
Tanya.
I love it. I love it because, most people I interview, no one's just from one place.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's why when you were saying that, especially because of, our follow-up question to that is, you know, when it comes to, the air quality, and
Mm,
definitely, you can be just in one spot, like where I live. One of my daughters, she smells burnt popcorn or roasted popcorn. Either way she says
mhm,
it. The
mhm.
other one is actually a peanut butter factory. But when we smell peanut butter all the time, she smell most of the popcorn. And we
Yep.
in the same area smelling the same thing. So I
Yep.
always say that because I'll be like, it's so funny how like you can have three people smell the same thing and
Mm,
it's different. It's just, it's just what
yes.
it is.
Yes.
But most of the time when she smells the burnt, that's when the fire trucks come out. Because when you're
Yep.
in a factory, there's always going to be certain amount of smoke. And
Hmm.
and you're used to that. But when it gets that really crazy smoke, and I can tell the difference.
Yes.
Even before the fire trucks come out, I'm like, they really burning
Yes.
some popcorn. Like
Listen.
they like, yeah,
Yep.
they must not have
Mhm.
cleaned out the furnace or something. Something's going on over there. And I can hear it, and it's funny how that goes. So
Yes.
with
Yes.
that being said, because you said you've kind of, lived in different places, and I don't think we always notice necessarily the air,
Yep.
and until you start thinking about it. But I can imagine New Orleans. I can just, even though I've never been there, I can imagine the sounds and the whole thing. So
All of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
The
it's
whole
a
experience.
whole situation. So
Yes.
go from, what you remembered to New Orleans into now, because that's a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
you just take your time and
Yep.
you just percolate on that for us.
Well, I really feel I want to talk about the error, and I think following that, because that was when you were saying that, I was reflecting on how that has shifted now being in the community that I am in now. So, like I said, I grew up in Southern Indiana. I grew up on a farm, rural area, and I'm thinking about like the smell. I'm thinking about how I felt health wise. I felt healthier. I felt it felt cleaner. It felt more sustainable. I also am thinking about the people who lived in that community. So this is a very kind of predominantly white rural area, right? So a lot of folks are I think in a way like how do we protect air quality for certain types of communities, right? So that community was very protected. It was a very privileged in that way community. So I'm just thinking, reflecting, okay, so then I moved to New Orleans and I start to live in a place that the air quality is different, right? Like the things that are surrounding. And I'm wondering and thinking about how that reflects on the type of people that are in that community. What are the long-term impacts? But also for me, it's always been about like what is the value that we have in that person or that community. Where I currently live in a place where, like you said, Tanya, like we walk outside. Sometimes I'm like, it smells like cookies out here. Like but there's a cereal factory that's just a couple of blocks down from my house. But when I'm driving to my house, there are moments that it smells so rancid and so the smell is overwhelming of not being able to feel like you can breathe. And I think
Mm.
that's really important to think about because the community that I'm choosing to live in now isn't all white. The community I'm choosing to live in looks like me. And the way that the value of our lives changes based on what people choose to put in our communities to pollute our lungs sometimes feels like it is reflective of what society how where society values us. So when I'm driving, I smell those smells. I smell the chemicals. I smell the and I'm looking down at the houses that are just right next to those factories. And I live blocks over, but we still smell it every single day. And I just think about the people there, and I'm thinking about their health, and I'm thinking about like their long-term survival rate, right? And so for me it's incredibly sad. Like it's I think it's sad. I think there's areas to be motivated about, but I'm sad because I'm like, why don't we deserve the same air that I got when I was living on my farm in Cordon? Why don't we deserve that? We deserve that, but we are not being allowed to have that. And a lot of folks are being forced to live in those areas because it's the cheapest place to live. And I think we all know that right now is very expensive to be alive. And so, unfortunately, you're having to choose a roof over your head, or do I have to live on the streets? Do I have to live somewhere else? Or do I have to put a roof over my head for myself and my family? Like, we're having to define safety, but unfortunately, we're having to define safety in terms of whether or not we're allowed to be alive. So, I feel really strongly about that particular question just because like of how I've seen it play out with the different places that I've lived in. So it's a good question, and I don't want to like be all sad about it, but I think it's really important for people to think about, when you're driving through those places, you're like, God, it stinks out here. People are have to live that. They don't get to just keep driving and go to cleaner air. Like that's not always an option. So what do we have to do about that, right?
That's why I
So
love you.
that answer your
You are
question.
so amazing. I love it. And this is what I love about this because, you know, I mean, I've done a few of these so far,
Mhm.
and no two answers are the same. No two. And I love that. And I love how it is explained and how it's broken down, because the people that hear this are going to be like, they're going to feel it. They're going to
Yeah,
feel what you're saying.
yeah,
They're going to be like,
yeah.
yes, right. We are not alone. Because
Yes.
sometimes we really believe that, like,
Mhm,
that is so different. Like, because
mhm,
we are different, right? And that's a
mhm.
beautiful thing. But we're not as different as, society tries to tell us that we are.
Yeah,
And it's like, oh
yeah.
my gosh, we are so similar.
Yes,
I
yes,
think like that too. Did I
yes.
think like that, or did she think like that? Did we think like what? Like
Listen,
what
I do
happened?
that all the
What-
time. It's kind of freaky. I think sometimes you walk through life and you're like, you have a thought and you're like, I don't know if anyone else has ever thought that before. Like I said that to myself all the time. And then I'll be seeing something online and I'm like, what? Like you thought that? And it's like it can be the most like outworldly thing that you're like, there's no way anyone else has ever thought about this. And someone else, they even thought about it and they made a meme about it. You know what I mean? It feels good to feel seen and heard. Like no matter like how like silly all the way up to like, oh yeah, like I really thought about that and how it impacts my community. And honestly, like we have to have those conversations because if not,
Mhm.
we are remaining too disconnected, and that is the goal, right? Like the goal is to keep us disconnected, but we can't do that. We got to see the similarities in our lives.
That's why I love you. You're so freaking awesome. I brag about people all the time. I'm like, I just have the best people in my life, like for
That's
real.
a
I
reflection
mean,
of you.
I just be
That
like,
is
because I just be like,
that
oh
is
my
you.
gosh,
You just have this
like
energy. You just have this energy that is rare. So
there's my daddy. I thank my daddy for real, and it's always bittersweet because y'all never be able to see him. Y'all never be able to meet him and really see what I know to be true. That's why even with my daughters, like they are so much like him. It's crazy because they never met him. But I'm like, our genes are that deep, girls. Our
yeah.
genes is
Yes.
that deep. Because
Yes.
they're like, I
Yes.
don't even, we never even met him. I'm like, oh my gosh, you are so much like your grandpa. Even my mom says it like, yeah, I see it. I'm like, don't, didn't dad do that?
Yes,
Like, we
yes,
don't even know because it's so natural for them that,
yeah,
like, they just don't even realize, and
yeah.
that's why I say, like, a lot of the things we do is, like, it's who we are, like, you
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? And that's why you have certain passions because it's in you, and, of course, we can all
Yeah,
learn and we can all be trained on certain things, but some things is just what it is. It's like, I
yeah.
don't even know how I know how to do that, for real. Like, I've just
Oh,
been doing it so long,
yes.
it's like, I don't know, and I wouldn't know how to tell nobody else. Like, I could
Mhm.
show you a little bit, I guess, but you would have to put your own flavor to it because
Yeah.
you'd be like, "Okay, I can't be like her. I want a little bit of it, and then I wanna put my own," and that's how my daddy taught me. He was all about, and that's why a lot of the foods that I made with him, I know he put some extra ingredients when I wasn't looking. I know he did. I know he did because I can make a lot of the same foods, and a lot of
Yeah.
my family, they're like, "Oh yeah, you make it similar to your dad's." I know because I know he probably put some ingredients before I was there or after. I
Yep.
already know this, so
Yes.
it's like it will always be similar to his, but it won't be his. But the one thing I'm missing is him. So
I
like
know.
that makes sense, right? But so when it comes to you
I
know
love that. I love that.
you have family, you have people that you care about. And so when it comes to like your hopes and your dreams, and not just for now, but the future, what does that really look like? Because I know when people think of like hopes and dreams, it could be like career wise, and that's fine too. But like the full picture of when you are walking down the street, because I feel like you got a mind similar to mine, like you see stuff that other people don't see,
Yeah.
that you would
All the time.
hope that people could see.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that part.
Great question. And I do think that we probably walk down the street and think similar things. I always tell people that I don't necessarily think like what you're asking and kind of how it plays out is work, but I always tell people I feel like I'm always working because no matter where I go, the whole situation is assessed, right? And it various reasons. Like I spent the last 12 years doing anti-trafficking work. And so a lot of times I'm thinking in terms of like, is this situation safe? Is this person safe? And to answer your question, like a lot of the ways I approach this now is that I am constantly thinking, so if I'm walking down the street and I see someone who needs help, I have two responses that go on my head. The first one is, what does that person need? Which is not determined by me, it's determined by them, right? But I'm thinking, what does that person need? But then I'm also thinking, what do we need to change within our community so that this person doesn't need that, right? And so I would say that over the last 12, 13 years of my work career, I have really shifted in the way that I approach things. I don't approach it in a so individualized that it's like we only respond to that individual and what they need, right? But I'm thinking of, okay, so we need to talk about poverty. Like, we need to talk about racism. We need to talk about gentrification. We need to talk about the things that, like, that's at the basis. If we don't, when people say, I don't want anyone to ever be hungry again, I don't want anyone to, well, the ultimatums of I want to end poverty, I want to end all of these different issues lies in you have to like go to the root of what causes poverty. And a lot of times it's things like those issues we don't want to talk about. Like I said, racism, sexism, any type of phobia, like that's at the base, right? So when I'm walking down the street, I see a lot. And I'm always immediately thinking the root. I always want to go to the root. I'm a root person. As you were just talking, Tanya, I was thinking about how, like, our roots, what's been passed down from your dad, like, that is roots that were way before your dad that were planted. And we just have to keep going in and watering them, but we got to make sure that the roots are watered. We have to make sure that around the roots, the other trees, the grass, all of that has to be nurtured too. So it goes beyond just our roots and our tree. It has to go to how do we sustain a healthy place that we can keep growing, our tree can keep growing. And that means that we have to sustain our entire community. So that's when I'm just thinking about how like I approach this work and how I for myself too. And I wanted to go back because you had asked, what are some of your biggest hopes and dreams? I am someone who I always tell people dream big. And that's something I'll teach my kid too, right? And I know that you teach your kiddos. Like, I don't, especially as Black folks, like, I don't ever want anyone to try to come for our light. I don't want anyone to try to come for our joy. And the reason that we're even like you and I are even right here right now is because our ancestors were like, I know that there can be something different, especially right now. And I don't want to get like really political, but like especially into the world right now, a lot of our hopes and dreams are being crushed every day, and we are exhausted, and we are a lot of people are feeling really hopeless. And I get it. Like, I am not going to be the one to sit here and tell you to just get out of that and be happy. Like, I'm not going to do that because people's lives are being impacted and we are scared, and our safety. So my biggest dream is that we get back to being really rooted in community. I want to see, oh, you're mad about this issue, well then we need to start a garden, and that has to be sustained, and it has to be really intentional and taken seriously. Oh, you're mad about this issue, well we need to make sure that people have access to healthcare that meets their needs, whatever that person identifies as or who they are. So like I really want us to get back to community, and I want us to get back to the love that I think has been taken away. And for me, those are the types of things that I really feel like can make some big changes, because sometimes I'm just sitting here like, have you ever talked to someone from this community? Like people who are making decisions for us, right? Like, have you ever sat down and talked to me? Like, just talk to me. And like, what I feel like maybe the outcome could be different, but like you are you don't have to. Like, we have gotten this like mindset like, I don't actually need to sit down and talk to anyone anymore. I don't actually need to like be in community anymore. And it's going to be our biggest detriment if we don't get back to it. That's just my personal opinion. So I think my thing is just dream big and just know that we can't be a martyr. We can't do it on our own. It's going to take us all doing it together. So that's my hope.
You are so amazing, for real. Like I could say that 400 more times because that's what it is, and that's what I'm saying. Like when we have conversations, because and I love to say this story. I still remember way back when I was doing banquets. Okay, I
Mm.
still remember the governor and Jim Newberry. I still remember this because I'm a single mom, and I'm working at a event that I'm pretty sure he was either giving a speech or something. He the governor, so he got a little
Mm-hmm,
power.
mm-hmm.
Governor or mayor? I always mix that too. I feel like he was the mayor though, but yeah, I feel like he was the mayor because they got a picture of him in the government center. So I think he's the mayor in Lexington. Very tall guy, very cool
Yeah.
guy. And this is all God, right? I believe this because it's just him and a few people, and they're talking about, you know, food stamps and Medicaid and all this type of stuff. Like, and I didn't even hear this conversation at first because I'm just going through, asking people if they need beverages, if I could take anything, whatever, whatever. And I actually wasn't even gonna go that route. I was gonna like, okay, these big people they talking. I'm gonna come over this way, but just something in my spirit just told me to go that way. And the first question that comes out his mouth is, "What do you think we can do to make it easier for single moms?" So you know me, I'm like, I have to stop.
You're like,
Like,
oh, how
hallelujah.
did you
Like,
know?
how did you know to ask this question? And so a lady was saying something. And so me being me, I was just like, excuse me, do y'all need any beverages or anything? Can I take anything? Oh no, we're good. I'm like, so I just was overhearing about single moms and how to make things better. Yes, we would love to hear from you. And I was just like, well, I was raised by two of the best parents, but my daddy was raised by a single mom. She raised 13 kids. 10 out of 13 went to college. The other three just didn't want to go. The school was not for them. And they were like, wow, which most people do. They're like, that is awesome. And it's like, and how do you think she was able to do that? Oh yeah, she had grit on top of grit on top of grit, but she also had her community. She also
Mhm,
had
mhm.
people that
Mm.
had her back.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
it didn't happen by herself. She did not wake up like that. It was a lot. She had to do a lot of different things that weren't fun,
Mm-hmm.
but she had to do what she had to do because that's what moms have to do. And
Yes.
and that's not to knock fathers, because I have the best daddy in the world. I am a daddy's girl, but that's what women have to do, especially
Yeah.
Black women. And
Yes.
it's not a race thing, but it's what it is. Like,
It is.
we
Yeah.
we just deal with things differently.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many reports that show that. There are so many different studies, because how we internalize things are just different because of how society is. And so the long way to say that is giving people a chance. Like, with me even being here tonight, the company that I'm working with, it's a temp company, but they believed in me. They gave me a chance. Now here I am. I'm talking with the powers that be.
Yep.
I've always said that. And of course, no, I did not think that. I mean, I knew it was an event. I knew some important people were going to be there, but no, I didn't know we was going to have this whole conversation. And they were really listening. Like, I could tell, I could see it, because that's stuff you can't hide. You know what I'm saying? And it was such a blessing because it wasn't even their titles or anything like that. But it's like, these are the powers that be. And
Yeah.
for them to really hear you, you
Yeah.
know, that is a gift that anybody
Mm-hmm.
should bestow upon another person.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we and you are talking, like, we hear each other,
Yeah.
and we're on the same page, and we're like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
that makes you feel less lonely,
Yeah.
because you just know, like, you're not the only one out there. Because even if we don't always think the same, we're on the same level. And
Right.
and we just want more, not just for our kids and our family, but for the community as a whole. Because every
Right.
time I look out, I just see, oh my gosh, we could do so much more. We can
Mm-hmm.
make things so much better.
Mm-hmm.
We could help these children, because I hear these kids, and I hear them, and not just with their words, I hear them with their heart, how they walk, how they talk, like, all the things. And people, all they see is, this is the hood, which,
Yeah.
I'm from Chicago. They don't
Yeah.
even know what the hood is. They don't even know what the projects are. So I let them have that. But my thing is, even if that's how they see it, these children are gifts. They are
Mhm.
so intelligent. The conversations that we have, I'm
Mhm.
not shocked by, because I know them, but it's like, why? And I still remember Divine Karma was talking about this. He had actually just had a big meeting. He was presenting at council, and he was talking about, it ain't got nothing to do with street cred. Because if you don't see these kids,
Yeah.
they're not going to listen to you. They're not
Exactly.
going to respect you. Yes, of
Exactly.
course, he has, his reputation. Everybody knows him. I knew him way before he was working with the mayor. I remember all the events that he did, even when we first met. And so, like, when he was, being, put in for the job with the mayor and all that, so I was like, I know that man. That's my brother. Like, to us, we're all like, hey, that's bruh. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We don't
Yep.
we
Mhm.
we know his name, we know his title, we know all that. We always give him that respect, but we like, nah, we know that's bruh. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
He's the one that's I always make sure people had nice coats, kids. I mean, my daughter's got some beautiful dresses from Macy's. I'll remember that. He still got the picture on his phone. And I think that's so sweet. And
Right. I love it.
he could be chilling. Like,
Yeah.
he really believes, and even in his status and his all that. Come on now, he was on the Jennifer Hudson show. Are you
Yeah.
for real? That's my girl. Come on now, I'm from Chicago.
Yep.
She's from Chicago.
Yep.
Hello.
Man, I
But
love me some J Hud.
still him. But why do you think those things are happening for him? Because even she sees it. The people that see, like, no, these people are for real. Like,
Yeah.
this is not just, yes, it's great to have those experiences, but it's because you worked hard.
Yeah.
I remember all those times. And that's why I'm saying, like, when we look back at this podcast and this conversation, and like, girl, you remember I was just chilling,
Yeah.
in
Yep.
my quote unquote projects,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
and now
Yes.
look at my mansion,
Yeah.
and look at my
Yes.
jewelry,
Man,
and
we
we
gonna
going to
manifest that.
Italy
Mhm.
and all this kind of stuff,
Yep.
and we doing this and we doing that, and people ain't gonna see it because I don't look like it, and I'll be like, Morgan, tell them, please tell
Yeah.
them.
I Just
I had
don't. Be
my
like,
Snap card
run it
was
back,
my
run it
platinum
back.
card. Yeah, my Snap card was my platinum card until I get my real one. So I'm not ashamed of any of that, you know. But it's and that's why even when I talk to different people, I'll be like, man, I'm sick of people thinking people are lazy that's on benefits because that is the farthest thing from the truth. And not just because I have them, it's because look at the numbers. Numbers don't lie. Two plus
Yes.
two will always be four, period.
Yep.
You can say whatever, you can even try to manipulate the numbers,
Right.
but numbers are numbers,
But you
stats
gotta
are
see it.
stats, and you know that.
Yep.
We know that. Even the
Mhm.
people that pretend that they don't know it,
Yeah,
quotation marks, pretend
exactly.
that they don't know it because they know it. That's why I say, what's that
They
one
know.
thing I say a lot? You know what I know, and you know that I know. See, we both
Yes.
be
Ooh,
knowing,
man.
so don't
Man.
pretend, right?
Yes.
Keep it 100. Please keep it real.
Yes.
You use that with people that don't care, but with
Listen.
me, be real.
Well, I feel like to your point, so I got to go back to like my when I was doing work in the human trafficking field because I was going and I would talk to kids a lot. I'd go to schools, I go to different programs, and before I would get there, a lot of those places would be like, Morgan, I just want to warn you, these kids are a lot. They would say all the things, right? They're a lot. It's this is them, and I'd always be like, okay, thank you, but I'm just going to walk in and be myself. Like, I'm not going to try to be anything else because I'm not trying to be another program for these kids. I'm trying to show up as another authentic person in their lives. And so when I would show up with these kids, I would be like, I'm going to step in with my authenticity. Like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to try to run circles. I'm not trying to have a power move here. Like, I'm not trying to be this authoritative. I'm just trying to, again, back to like what we were talking about. I've been thinking a lot recently about relational resiliency, and I've been looking into it a lot. And so, anyway, but it's that building a relationship with someone authentically and showing up as your whole self, as their whole self, and just being real. And what I found was I would go in to have these conversations with these kids. And every time the teachers or the program, they'd all be like, how did you do that? And I was like, I can't give you a recipe for it. I'm just telling you to just be you. Like, just calm down. Like, calm down. Be you. And you know what? Like, I had some incredible conversations with kids, really hard conversations with kids. Kids know so much. They know so much. And sometimes what's difficult about kids knowing so much is how they know so much, right? And so that's again where I'm going. I'm always like, so what is the root here? I love that you're being able to tell me all the things. I love that you have so much knowledge around this, but I also want to know why. And that's where our action steps as a community is, right? Because I'm coming in and talking about human trafficking, and you know a lot. And of course, I want to be able to respond and support you in that moment, but like I'm also trying to figure out why is this community being exposed to so much violence and exploitation. And so, anyway, all that to say, I feel like there were so many things that you were talking about that I was like, oh, I want to talk about that. But what I kept coming back to was like, I think the whole being real
Mhm.
and just showing up as you it's a freedom to me. And you had asked earlier, like, what are some of your biggest dreams when you walk down the street? What do you want to see? I want to see freedom, but I want freedom within like myself. I want freedom for my community. And I think that part of that self work is being able to just show up as yourself in these conversations. So,
And that's why you're amazing. And that's why I love you. For real. Like you like the sister that I never had
yeah,
that I'm grateful to have. And that's what I'm
yeah.
talking about. Like that's why I love this. That's why I love that I get to do this. I feel honored that I get to do this. Like for real. Like this is, and I know sometimes people think like, does she really be that excited? Like to me, this is not even excitement. This is me. Like, I mean, I am excited, but it's not
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not like, ooh, let's see how excited I can be today. Like, no, it's just me being me. And it just goes back to how grateful and you everybody's grateful level is different, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I ain't even that grateful. Even though I am, like,
Yeah.
because I just feel that I have overcome so much in life. You know what I'm saying? And when you look back at where you were and where you're at, and you're like, oh my gosh, like for real, like this happened,
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah.
then especially people that seen you from back in the day and they
Yeah.
still in your life, and you over here like, thank you for not killing me, appreciate it. Thank you for getting together. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and so I'm just so grateful for you, and I appreciate your time.
Of
And of
course.
course, we will do this again.
Yeah,
And I
totally.
just know, and this is how I always end it, whatever you heard from me or Miss Morgan, that you just hear hope, that you just hear life.
Mhm.
Whether you agree with it or not, just listen. Just really hear it. Try to find a piece of yourself in whatever we said, because I guarantee, and I can guarantee this, there is something that we have said that can marinate with you, that can roll with you, that you could be like, I could roll with that. I
Yeah.
could vibe to that. Like when we
Mhm.
get away from that, I don't even know what they're talking about. When we get away from that and we're just like, let me just hear. And then you're
Mhm.
like, oh my God, bam, 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 checkpoint, checkpoint. Because that's what it is, right? When we get away from that, all that, whatever that is, I don't even know what that's called. But when we get away from it and we're just like, hey, you know what? I just want to hear what this is about. And just keep myself open and keep myself in that situation. And then, bam, you're like, that light bulb moment,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
know?
Yes. Well,
But
and
any last thoughts before
I
we get
just
off
want to
here?
say, yeah, I just want to say thank you. Like, thank you for telling the stories. I think we all know that like story passing down our cultures and passing down our love and passing down our joy is through the storytelling. And so these spaces are this is what sustains us. So I'm really glad that you're doing this. I am so honored to have been a part of it. Thank you. And I'm happy to always come back. But if anyone ever has questions, please feel free to reach out.
You are awesome. And with that, we out.